Wake up, Adam, they are getting close. One step closer, 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 one step closer.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Sorry about that. We actually had the ourselves open there for a second there and couldn't close it. Thank you, everybody that is already here. Diane Thomas, we've got Jimmy Touchdown, Trusted Source, Preston. What is going on, Commando Elite? We have Firefly Farm. We have Truth Iris, Meaty Meat, UKS4, Penny Salmons. We have Kathy Piana. We have Mama Wolf Callahan, Rachel Queen, Greg Zubek. Thank you, guys. And again, thank you for making it to today's show. We have a lot to go over. First of all, let's go over air quality alerts extend for the third day as smoke from Canadian wildfires pushes south. We talked about it yesterday. In fact, Jacob Israel, one of my friends, actually posted a video of what it looked like in New York. It was pretty extreme. It looked a whole lot like it did here in the Northwest a couple of years ago when we got all of the smoke from Oregon and, of course, from Canada and all around us and from Western Washington. And it was really, really bad. It was dangerous, in fact. They are getting the same thing over on the East Coast this time. It's almost like everybody needs to get a taste of it, right? Then everybody will be jumping on the bandwagon for the official narratives. Officials warned residents to stay inside and limit outdoor activities Thursday as a thick, hazardous haze of wildfire smoke loomed over daily life for millions of people across the U.S. and Canada for a third day and was expected to persist as long as the weekend in a Canadian fire season that is just getting started. So that is a really big point to make. It's not just the Canadian fire season. It's going to be the U.S. fire season. It's going to be the California fire season. It's going to be in the fire season period. So looking at what has happened the last few years, I would highly recommend, especially if you live in California, to start prepping for potential rolling blackouts and things like we had a few years ago. It should be an El Nino year if they haven't already officially said that. I kind of remember us covering that. They said it has to be. If it doesn't, it would be like unprecedented. So there's going to be a lot of really, really crazy events this year, and they can already see that. As far as the smoke, people as far down as Indiana and even farther have been seeing all of this smoke. So it's really bad, and I'm hoping that everybody is staying safe and tries to breathe as much fresh air as possible. Highly recommend getting a filter, one of those air filters if you can. But if you can't, try to stay inside and stay out of that nasty stuff. I know that people die, especially with asthma and any kind of breathing problems. Anybody with emphysema should not even walk outside in some of these areas. All right, and then before we move on, I do want to remind you, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com. We'll explain that in just a second. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Remember, when you go over to the website, you will see that every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today has a full bibliography. You have a full source for it. You can go to One Step Closer to Conflict. Of course, today the news came out that China is approved to put a spy base into Cuba. This is what I predicted back in January and in March. I talked about how they were doing these weird meetings with Cuba, and I said to expect that something like this would happen, a partnership between Xi and the Cuban leader. So now it has happened. So make sure to go over to the website. You'll see every single article, tweet, video, picture, document here, and you'll see a whole lot in the overflow. There's overflow web content, all of the stuff that really is the stuff would get you in a bar fight over nowadays in the 2020s, or it just could not fit into the show. If it wasn't absolutely important enough, it ended up in the overflow, or if it was the stuff that will get you booted. So make sure to go check that out. And thank you, Rumble, for being here. And thank you, DLive. And thank you, all of the rest of the Foogle fam. Make sure to go check out the Marfoogle friends. All of the mods are doing a wonderful job keeping it peaceful down there in the chat. So make sure to do them a favor and go subscribe. There's lots of great people down there. And thank you, everyone, for making it to today's show. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So a little bit of house cleaning. So just want to let you know, there was a few in the chat that were talking about the new digital system. We actually talked about this back in November. We warned those in the EU because this is where this is going to affect prior to it affecting us here in the US. It will first affect the EU if everything goes into place, and it will eventually affect global changes. We have actually talked about this several times on our channels, and we have actually updated every piece of the update every time they've updated this over on, of course, our website as well. So we actually would like to make sure that you guys know you can always Google, or I'm sorry, not Google, go up to the top corner of the search engine on our bar. If you think we haven't covered something, there's probably a pretty good chance that we have not only covered it, but we've covered it a lot. So we try to, get focused on everything that is current. This actually was from 3 days ago. This is a piece kind of explaining a little bit of it. But the European Commission and the WHO launched landmark digital health initiative to strengthen global health security. So there's things that go into this with digital identifications and certifications regarding the CV. There's a lot there. I mean, this is exactly what we warned about with this whole system. But at the same time, just today, there were some of the V's taken off the market by the FDA. So there's things happening, which I think that if the right information comes out before this, then this will not go into full play. And you basically have to just pray and hope that the truth comes out beforehand, and that will change in the near future. But this is why we prep. This is why we prep, not because of things like this, but because of how they're changing the world. And people need to realize that it is changing fast. So really, we need to kind of roll with the roller coaster and the punches. And literally, our world is going to change. I've been warning you guys for years now. Our world is literally going to change in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years, in the next 2 years. So people really need to start getting their stuff prepped. Again, my main purpose here is to get people prepped. I never wanted this to be where I was breaking the second something comes out, that I literally am in your face going, this is breaking news, because there's a million of people doing that. I think more of my job is to get people prepared for the responses for all of this and to give you my honest opinion on what is happening here. I have given my honest opinion on this many times. I've told you they're going to track, trace, and they're going to basically take everything, every kind of freedom that we have. So as far as breaking, none of the mainstream is really covering this. This is actually from the official website of the actual agency of the W and the H and the O. So that is over on the website as well, along with a bunch of other pieces talking about when this was inception, when this was talked about, the inception of it, the meetings on it. We've covered so much on this. Again, And it's not shocking to me to see this kind of going into place. So thank you. And again, I would appreciate if everybody in chat came in positive. If you're not having a great day, don't kick the cat. Don't blame other people for it. Again, we all have bad days and off days, and we'll totally, that's fine. Just the whole point of this is if you come in, you get the same kind of treatment that you give. You give respect, you'll get respect. And I think everybody should follow that rule, and we'll have a fun time, and we'll be able to, obviously have a great time after work or between work or at work, whatever you're doing right now. It doesn't really matter. Or if you're in traffic, then let's have a good time and relax. So we're going to be taking calls tonight, and the calls are going to be at 224400-MARF. Again, that's 224400-MARF. If you would like to call in, the number is going to be scrolling down below, right below. And of course, on this, it will actually need to turn that on real quick. So make sure that if you don't have a touch-tone phone, just wait around. The actual full number will scroll back around. That is 224400-6273. I think that I don't know if there's a full moon or something, but a lot of people are very stressed out right now, including myself. So let's just try to let off some steam and have a good day and show people love and turn it around. I will turn this show right around if you kids don't behave. All right. And then Drive for Uber. DC wants to give you a free dash cam. This is part of the surveillance that is happening. Of course, you get a free dash cam out of it. What this is doing, it says, in an effort to put more cameras on the streets to help police investigate crimes, DC leaders will be giving away free dash cameras to people who spend a lot of time behind the wheel. It says it is focused on public safety, DC Mayor Muriel Bowser said on Wednesday. The cameras will be handed out later this summer at designated locations to drivers who work for food delivery or rideshare companies. It is being funded through a $500,000 donation on the on-demand food delivery service DoorDash. Advancing the safety of our entire community is incredibly important to everyone at DoorDash, said John Horton, a spokesman for the company. We look forward to taking this a bold step with Mayor Bowser and the Metropolitan Police Department as we work together to achieving a safer future for everyone in the district. Do you guys get what is happening here? We talked about this when the first patents were filed for Ring doorbell cameras and things, how they were setting up this kind of infrastructure for police stations to actually have access to private doorbell cameras and things for those who opted in. And also for stores, they were actually paying stores $500. For this, a DoorDash driver, which most are, obviously living delivery to delivery and day to day, and they really are not, especially from what I have heard, they're not making as much as they were in the beginning. There's all these fees and different things that come into play, and gas prices are now $5 a gallon of gas. Well, as far as dash cams, that's $100, $200, $300, especially the nice ones. And it is a good thing to have, especially if you drive for a living. So I bet you a lot of people are going to take them up on this. But where does the police department come into play on this? So are they going to have access to this? Is this going to be like a Wi-Fi ranged one, or is it just supposed to work when if they get in an accident and upload the footage? Like, this is creepy. They're literally telling us they want to put more cameras out on the streets to prevent crime. Dex, this is like very, very. I don't know what other word to say. It's creepy. Dex, did I lose you? Oh, I'm sorry. Again, he is screening. Got it. Forget it's a call-in show. Thursday and Friday. Gosh, it has been a long day. But Dex, you can pop in whenever you want, and you can interrupt me when you do get off the phone. My bad. Dex was actually saying right before the show that it's essentially kind of what we talked about, is how they're going to incentivize giving free cameras and things like this to get us to basically surveil ourselves. And a lot of people are going to say yes to this, or if they have a Ring doorbell camera, they'll be able to get a refund or some sort of huge coupon if they do a Ring doorbell on their house that ends up, connecting to the police station. What I wonder is if these are Wi-Fi cameras and if they somehow connect to your phone and then send signals out, They now have the technology to do that. Some of them even have satellite ability or even their own SIM card, and then it's a free service. Say if they did have their own SIM card and the government paid for that service, then they could monitor those cars and those cameras themselves. Now, it doesn't say that they have that, but that is something that could be done. It says the program provides a rebate of up to $200 per camera with a maximum rebate of $500 per residential address. So this is exactly what I talked about back when they did this. I said to get this into everybody's hands, they're either going to offer it for free or they're going to give you a giant discount to where it's $10 to get a $300, $400 camera. And everybody in this day and age is scared of, everything. So of course, people are going to get more surveillance, more this and that. But imagine this, you have a Thanksgiving dinner and say your 20-year-old daughter comes over with her boyfriend and all of a sudden a SWAT team is showing up at your door. Why? Well, maybe your 20-year-old daughter is dating a biker or something or somebody who has a warrant, and it automatically flagged the police department and told them to come to your door. This is the future and this is coming. This is what they have planned for all of us. So I would, they're very convenient to have. Oh, I can check my house at work, but it's something that, again, it's a change that not many people can stop. What you can do is you can personally choose with your own self to not put one up on your door or on your car. And then U.S. drug shortages highlight the dependence on China and gray supply chains. So this is actually more information about what we've been talking about for a long time. The emergency move to import Culu's cisplatin, which is not FDA approved, comes as U.S. hospitals ration chemotherapy drugs that can dramatically improve a patient's prognosis. An FDA official told the China Project that the agency is exploring continued importation of cisplatin and temporary importation of another cancer drug, carboplatin. But when asked, they wouldn't provide details on plans for further temporary importation from China. This is the first time that the U.S. has allowed for temporary importation of cisplatin, the FDA official said. The FDA's emergency import of a medicine from China shows just how reliant America has become on Chinese manufacturers of active pharmaceutical ingredients, or APIs, for a range of products from cancer therapeutics to antibiotics to ingredients of the Adderall used to treat attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which we actually also covered that ADHD and ADD had basically skyrocketed in the last 10 years. There's been overprescription of Adderall. And I'm sure many of you probably take Adderall for ADD. A lot more people are prescribed this, I would say skyrocket numbers compared to 10, 20, 15 years ago. And more people are even diagnosed with it. The kind of thought on that is that, more people, they know what it is before they didn't know what it was, and they misdiagnosed it, or they just thought that person was unique or couldn't pay attention. Whatever it may be, if it's from what we're drinking in the water or what they're putting in the milk, all of these things we are dependent on China for. So if China goes out of the equation one day, all of a sudden we don't have antibiotics, we don't have cancer treatments, which has that specific part, by the way, has been predicted in so many end of the world movies. It's not funny. Specifically chemotherapy drugs that were made in China. And then Adderall, if you can think about, basically that's legal speed. If folks don't have that, if that just stops one day, you'll have a lot of really angry people going through withdrawals. So this is something, as far as antibiotics though, that's the most important thing. We've talked about how the APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, it's like something like 97% of all of the APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, come from factories in China. It's something a little bit lower, but a really crazy number, like 90% of all antibiotics that are already made are coming from China as well. This is something that I have always said, I don't know how that this ever got to this point. It was stupid. And it was going bottom line. It was like nobody was looking towards tomorrow at a former and current adversary being in charge of life-saving drugs that essentially the entire country runs on. There's probably every last one of us has probably gotten antibiotics at least once in the last 10 years. There's probably a lot of people that take them reserved like I do. I've only taken them probably 2 or 3 times, maybe probably 4 or 5 times in my whole life. And, but because if you overtake them, it's bad too. But as far as, most people have done this. So this would affect absolutely everyone. If you could think about any kind of event that would happen in your life that would need you to take antibiotics, imagine one day, all of a sudden that just stops. It says the FDA officials' reluctance to share details of the emergency imports highlights how hard it has been for the U.S. to manufacture critical drugs at home at a time when lawmakers in Washington are concerned about China weaponizing its pharmaceutical manufacturing advantage by cutting off supplies. We've seen young moms frantically calling from pharmacy to pharmacy this past winter, even now to get basic antibiotics for their child. Charles Tabucharani, a pharmacist in New York City, told the China Project. It says the current shortages are among the worst Tabucharani has seen since opening Cherry's Pharmacy on Manhattan's Upper East Side in 2004. To prevent this kind of scare, or worse, members of both chambers of Congress introduced Protecting Our Pharmaceutical Supply Chain from the China Act in March of 2022. Had it ever come to a vote and passed, it could have been phased in bans of APIs made in China. The FDA's decision to import cisplatin from China demonstrates the risk of banning drugs without first building the capacity to manufacture them in the U.S., an expensive endeavor when China makes the drugs at a lower cost, due partly to an overabundance of labor. Some U.S. lawmakers are urging international big pharma to consider sourcing drugs and APIs from countries other than China, where many of the biggest global drug makers have long-standing partnerships. From what I have personally heard from someone who is very high up in a company that essentially does logistics, they said that they are actively trying to work out different contracts, not only by boat, because they deal with not only the boats, but also certain plane trips, that there are people in our government that are actively trying to work out an emergency workout, something with other countries, including India, trying to get different things like APIs and different things like lithium from other countries. It seems like they're trying to cut the dependence off of China, and they're trying to do it very quickly. And it's not something I've seen in the public. And from what they said that none of this is really getting out there. That there are certain groups, and they are actively trying to separate from China as fast as they can. At the same time, you have other groups in this government, in the U.S. government, that are basically turning a blind eye to it. So that kind of sounds and kind of confirms what I've always kind of thought, and my opinion is that we have some people here that are trying to basically hurt us from inside, and then some people are really good people who are still, good old American people that really care about what's going on here. This was a quote. It says, "I think pharma is contemplating redundant supply chains." U.S. Representative Amy Barra, a former physician who sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. They've already made massive investments in China as well, so they're not going to shut down those investments. Our message is to think about other places to make those investments and create those other supply chains. So it's a big deal. We've talked about all of the different ways that China now has some sort of aim of control. They're able to literally turn off 80% of our cranes if they want to, or at least that's what's been claimed, since 80% of all of our ports or our ports cranes were made in China with proprietary software that could literally shut the damn thing down. Not to mention all of the different containers and things that are coming in from China. We are heavily dependent on them. Almost every corporation that you can think of ended up trying to get a better bottom line, and they ended up going and manufacturing things in China or in Asia. So this is pretty horrible. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Patricia says, Marv, how about the aliens in backyard Las Vegas? If we haven't covered it, send it to me, because I don't know. There's been a lot of Las Vegas aliens that I've covered. And then Be Real Beast, we need to be keeping aware of the possible meltdown. Keeping aware of the possible meltdown. Are you talking about in UKR in Zaporizhia because of the water situation, or Fukushima, or somewhere else? I guess I don't know what that was in reference to. Be Real, thank you for your support. And then Carla Snow, thank you for becoming a member. Anthony Vincent, thank you for becoming a member. Lanu Tilton, thank you for subscribing. And BC, thank you for subscribing. And TH, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that as well. Ibufios, thank you for subscribing. And then Tristan Early, thank you for subscribing as well. Remember, you can call us at 2244-00-MARF. That's again 2244-00-6273. And then Taiwan activates air defense as China aircraft enter zone. It says Taiwan activated its defense systems on Thursday afternoon, reporting 37 Chinese military aircraft flying into the island's air defense zone, some of which then flew into the Western Pacific in Beijing's latest mass air incursion. So this is after the fact. I just want to point out there have been incursion after incursion after incursion, and it almost gets old. But I would point out that these are tests. They test about how they respond to each incursion, and they're essentially writing every result down. If you understand basics of how that government works, they do a lot of experimentation with things, and they have incredible systems without the kind of democracy that we have in other parts of the world. They don't have any red tape. They can just do things. They can test things. They can do whatever the heck they want. Well, as far as when they do these incursions, they look at it and they do this as basically its own drill. And they look at each one and they say, well, we took this many and this many and this many, and we had this kind of reaction. They're essentially being super detail oriented about every part, every incursion. If you look, there's kind of been a different map of all of the different incursions. They have tested like 95% of the island in different areas and what they would do. It seems like they're getting close to one of these days. We will just see them actually roll in and do damage, possibly take out anti-air, take out whatever the high profile targets are. That's what I think. Others think that they won't even fire a shot, that they will actually surround the island and embargo the island, which is actually a lot very believable, and it very well could happen, where they trap them and essentially say nothing goes in, nothing goes out. They claim a no-fly zone over the island. They don't let anything enter until they basically starve and they make some sort of deal. But I think that they're doing this to test it, and they're writing the results down, and they're doing this very strategically. China, which views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory, has over the past 3 years regularly flown its air force into the skies near the island, though not into Taiwan's territorial airspace. Taiwan's defense ministry said that from 5 a.m. on Wednesday, it had detected 37 Chinese Air Force planes, including J-11 and J-16 fighters, as well as nuclear-capable H-6 bombers, flying into the southwestern corner of its air defense identification zone. Now, keep in mind, southwestern corner. If you look back at the other stories we've covered on this, it will be northwestern, northeastern, southwest, and they've covered almost all of these. They are going in from different angles, and that's one thing that they never point out in these articles is the different kinds of areas. And when they show them on the map, they just basically show a very simple kind of icon of them crossing from China and going in and flying back. But a lot of these, they actually, the ones especially that take off from the aircraft carriers, they'll take off from the aircraft carriers, go into a different side, and that's why they're working on their new aircraft carriers that actually have the auto ramps. I forget what they call. If somebody in the military Navy wants to, there's a difference in ramps. I think they're called elec ramps or something. Or I feel like I'm close. Either way, they're instead of a ramp that goes up some sort of actual ramp on the aircraft carriers, their new aircraft carriers have this thing that basically catapults, electric catapults or CATs, whatever the heck they are. You guys can drop it in the chat and I'll correct when you guys do, because I know somebody knows what the heck I'm talking about. But the new CATs that are on the new aircraft carriers, they can fit a lot more planes. They can launch the plane in a lot shorter distance, which means they can fit more planes on. Those ones they're waiting for, essentially they look at that, then they could take both sides of the island and they could set many, many things on, in play at the same time. So yet another incursion, but I want to point out they have tested almost all of the different corners, all of the different areas, and I think they're getting close to figuring out what they're going to do. And this is another huge step. Cuba gives China permission to build a spying facility on the island, U.S. intel says. Now, there's always a chance that this is completely U.S. Ganda, but I highly doubt it. I know that Xi has met and Vlad has met with the Cuban leader there. And it says Cuba has agreed to allow China to build a spying facility on the island that could allow the Chinese to eavesdrop on electronic communications across the southeastern U.S., a source familiar with the intelligence told CNN. Mind you, it's always told the CNN first. The USS learned about the plan when the last several weeks, first source said that it's unclear whether China has already begun building the surveillance facility. Another source familiar with the intelligence says that it suggests that a deal has been struck in principle, but there hasn't been any movement on building the facility. It would not be the first time China has attempted to spy on the U.S. electronic communications, known as signals intelligence. A suspected Chinese spy balloon that transited the U.S. in February was capable of gathering signals intelligence and believed to have transmitted back to Beijing in near real time, sources told CNN at the time. In that case, the U.S. took steps to protect sensitive sites and censor intelligence signals before shooting down the balloon. It is unclear what the U.S. can do to stop the construction of a Chinese spying facility in Cuba. This says this report is not accurate, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said in a statement on Thursday afternoon. It says, "We have had real concerns about China's relationship with Cuba, and we have been concerned since day one of the administration about China's activities in our hemisphere and around the world. We are closely monitoring it and taking steps to counter it. We remain confident that we are able to meet all of our security commitments at home and in the region." I want to go over to the chat. What do you guys actually think about this? I do want to get your opinion on the Cuba. And do you guys have the Cuba spy station? Have you heard anything? Have you heard other peers? And what do they think about this? Like, because honestly, it seems to me like if they're making this is a perfect place for them to make a spy base. Russia already had something there, or at least it was suspected there were satellite dishes and things that satellite photos showed that there was some sort of spy base already there, but they believed it was from Russia. If China's doing this on top of all of the other smaller events we've covered, it really does seem like they are trying to essentially get all of the info straight and spy on us, along with the police stations all over the world and in NATO countries, and now with a spying station. I feel it's obvious that they are getting prepared for a war on the U.S. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. So let's see here. I'll pop open the chat here real quick. Oh, let's see. Coffee Guy, remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? Yes. Cuba has fine cigars, Baron Saturday. Yes, they do. Let's see here. I think the regime is allowing it, and it's been planned for at least 2 years, says Tiffany. Let's see. CNN, very trustworthy. No, and that's why I pointed out, a lot of these exclusives always go to CNN first. So, like I said, there's a good chance that this could totally be Ganda, but I do think that China is spying on us, or if it's part of the plan that they are, or that half that is turning the blind eye and that's getting them involved and taking a paycheck, they could be helping with that. Kirby should go back to selling vacuum cleaners. He's a clown, says Samson. Kind of agree on that. Everything air guns, something strange seems afoot. I agree with that as well. Ian DeBow, Cuba is so damn poor, I wouldn't be surprised that they want some China money. Peter Kurkowski says it's an invasion. Beth says ready for pre-tribulation rapture, Revelation 3:10. Stephen McMahon, 8th grade, we came a hair's breadth from nuclear conflict with Vlad over missiles in Cuba. With Russia, right? Who was the leader of it then? It wasn't Vlad, but I know what you mean. Let's see here. Just cut Cuba off and let it floor out to sea. We can use it for target practices. Well, I guess they were cut off from the world for a long time, right? But didn't that recently end? Some part of it. I remember it was a big deal. Do you guys remember when Jay-Z and Beyonce, Obama gave them literally permission? The president of the United States gave his buddies, Jay-Z and Beyonce, permission to go to Cuba and have a vacation. Like, got permission from the very, very top. That seems pretty corrupt, if you ask me, at a time when it wasn't allowed. No, let's take Cuba for ourselves, says Yukon. Cuba, a state, would look like California. Let Russia whoop deep state. Minority Reporter. Let's see here. It's probably been true and been planned for our leading goddess helping and agreeing. Just in time, says Boom. And what was that sonic sound? Not what they say it was. Which sonic boom, by the way? We've covered a bunch. Truth Ira says Communist News Network. Yep. Well, and now they fired people on their end. Don Lemon. I just now saw the tweet that Don Lemon posted when he got fired. I didn't realize that when he got fired, he actually posted publicly saying, like, I didn't know what happened. They just kind of canned me. Why do you think that they fired Don Lemon? I could understand why they did Tucker. I could understand why they did Bongino. Obviously, don't agree with it. But why Don Lemon? I didn't get that. Did he question things, or did just nobody like Don Lemon? Go visit Cuba. It's a great place to do. Lots to do and lots to see. Josh Egan, personally, as just like a architectural place, I would love to see Cuba. I've always seen pictures of it and think it's beautiful. It's got all these 1950s cars because the embargoes or whatever. The architecture, every, actual film that I've seen shot in Cuba, I mean, the whole place looks beautiful. But apparently it's not so beautiful unless you are rich, because we've talked about how a piece of gum, for a 5-cent piece of gum, is like $5 there. Diane Thomas, Brenda Stroll. Again, call us if you would like, 224-400-MARF. I'm going to open up the screener here real quick. And it looks like, let's see. We have T. Oh, this is going to be interesting. T calling for Florida. Let's get T on the phone and just beat me when T is ready to come in. While we do that, make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. Just wanted to reiterate, somebody said that, can you really do this in 10 minutes? EMP Shield is a device that you can actually wire in, just to show you how easy this is. If you've ever looked under your car hood and looked at your battery, the black, that straps to the black. The red straps to the red. And the green, red straps to red, green straps to the other side, and I believe the black is ground. It's been a minute since I did mine. And then the black does to the frame. So that's how easy it is. That's how long it takes. You have to basically hook these up to 3 different spots, and you are done. So this is an EMP shield that can protect you against electromagnetic pulse, and I believe it will save lives. This is something that every prepper should have on their vehicles. Make sure to check if your vehicle needs one. There's a lot of vehicles that will. There's many vehicles that if an EMP or a CME strikes, then they will basically be dead in the water. You can't even press the gas without the digital part of it telling it to push the gas. So again, make sure to go check this out. That's the micro that can fit into almost anything. It's got the same protection. And of course, it has this much, much smaller size. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can use the code MARF or just use that link. That link will do it automatically. It can work in cars, trucks, generators, solar systems, RVs, of course, boats. You can even use it on your ham radio. There's tons of different devices for pretty much anything that you want to protect. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP to get $50 off and to support our independent news. We're on our own. Again, the stuff that we cover, everything that we do. Again, we don't have a team. We don't have a multi-channel network protecting us. If we say something, you get knocked off. We pay for the lawyers to get back on. We basically have to do everything on our own. So we appreciate, that's why we pick affiliates that we believe will not only protect you, save your life or make your life more convenient during a disaster. When you go to get this, not only are you getting a discount, but you can feel good that you're supporting your favorite channel and doing so while getting a huge discount. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is the same company that's outfitting DHS, DOD, and of course now they're on the DEMSO team, helping protect the Texas grid. So make sure to go check it out. It's all Keystone military tested for all 3 phases of an EMP and CME and even lightning. All right, let's go over to T. T, you're live on Marfoogle News.
Hey, Adam, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's going on, T? So,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can.
So,
Something happened.
Awesome. Yeah. So, my girlfriend of a couple years, she was working for the state up in New England and was forced to get the thing in order to keep her job. Well, fast forward a little bit, was having some pains and stuff and just really, really, abnormal symptoms happening. And about 8 days ago, completely went paralyzed. A beautiful, healthy 30-year-old girl on her entire right side. Every neurologist that's looked at it doesn't know exactly what's going on because it looks like MS where the myelin sheath of your brain is actually being attacked by your own immune system. But there's no other markers indicating that. So there's no definitive diagnosis. And a very, very well-known neurologist here said that this has been going on more than she has ever seen, and especially in the past even 6 months. She says that the amount of young women that she has seen and men that have had this almost exact same thing happen to them has been astonishing.
Can I ask?
Really, just some prayer.
Is there hope for her to recover from this?
So yeah, man, we were in the local hospital for 8 days, and now we are in a really good physical therapy, inpatient rehabilitation hospital, and they're going to work with her to really try to get her to start walking again. We don't know. Pray to God, hope that hope and pray that it works and that the steroids work and that it goes away. But it's happening, and you get mad because you know what it is, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And we're just it's nice to have this group of people, and we're all just trying to scream at the top of our lungs, and people that don't want to hear it just don't want to hear it.
Well, so with when things like what happened today at the same time, the FDA just canceled one of those things and pulled it. It's like the people that in our lives 2 or 3 years ago when we said, hey, there's something going on with this, that they say that it's causing certain things. And then a couple years later, now they're saying, yes, it absolutely does. It's like, this isn't the kind of thing you can say, I told you so, because unfortunately, if it's already done, it's done. There's no going back. Yeah. My mother-in-law basically questioned this and looked for 2 months and had me send everything. And what people did and what she did is she basically looked up everything I sent her. She basically wanted to not believe it. So she looked up the Google equivalent of how it was debunked or whatever else and came up with the reason why it wasn't true. But the things that were saying it wasn't true were these paid for groups that were essentially doing their own in-house studies, and anything that popped up, they would put an in-house study and say it's BS. But now moving forward, we know that these groups all paid for those and they did it themselves. It's not like they're going to put out a study that hurts their multi-trillion-dollar plan at this point.
Exactly.
So, and then the way that
they're still pushing.
Well, I think they need to set this up so where they test them for longer, that they are accountable for any damages, but that's not how it's been. It's never been that way for that certain thing. Right. And they're saying that the future is all related, that there's going to be tons of things. If you have bad eyesight, you'll be able to take one for good eyesight and things. Like this is going to be a moneymaker. Think about this. If somebody got something put in them once every year to have 20/20 eyesight, there's literally going to be things like that. Or if there's a problem that arises, and who knows who brought the problem up, then they give you the solution for it, but you have to take it every 6 months. That's a freaky thing.
A very freaky thing, man, and it's scary to see that's where that's the direction that we are heading in. As a country, it's terrifying. But
as a world,
us as the I guess us as the silent majority are they're not going to be able to continue to silence us. People know that the mainstream is lying. It's a big lie. They know it's a scheme. People are starting to catch on now, and it's it's really a shame. It's really a shame, but it's really what it boils down to is what you always say, and it's be prepared, mind yours, have your stuff together, and be a good person, do the best you can, and really stay as close to Earth as possible.
Well, T, thank you, and I'm praying for your girlfriend. Is there a first name? Can we pray for her?
Yep. Yeah, her name's Rachel. Yep. If y'all could pray for her, that would be amazing. That would really that's pretty much the reason I called, was to get as many people as possible praying, because it's real. It's real, and it's tough. And I absolutely believe that I absolutely believe that's what happened to her. Prayers would be greatly appreciated, everybody.
All right. Well, I'll be praying for Rachel, and then if you can, give us a call and update us.
I will. I absolutely will, man. Well, I love you guys. I love the show. Been listening since it was a cell phone of you and your wife. So y'all have a great night, and God bless everybody.
God bless you. Have a good night, and give Rachel a hug, and she's still there. That's one thing that you can.
Yep,
the silver
absolutely.
lining. All right. Thank you, T.
Amen. All right.
Amen.
Yep, absolutely. Have a great night. Bye, Adam.
Bye. So if you don't pray, then positive vibes towards Rachel. We just talked about it yesterday or the day before, how there's huge articles everywhere, syndicated articles talking about what supposedly or may have happened to Jamie Foxx. It's like, even the fact that the headlines got out there on such a big scale, and it was syndicated. You knew it was, because there was all of these different news outlets that had almost the exact same article, and then they credit the one main article that did it. But even stuff like that usually will end up on alternative news sites and things, but it won't be syndicated like it was the other day. And that makes me suspicious. Like, how even that getting out is just like, is the narrative purposely changing right now? It's very odd. Okay. And then Dex, I didn't know if I thought I saw you beep at me. I was going to see if you wanted to pop in on the biggest risk to bring under control Taiwan. Are you free? Or are you talking to somebody right now?
Give me 1 minute, Adam.
Okay, no problem. And then, by the way, on deck is Siggy and Camera Networks and Safe Cities and the Uber camera. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. I'll actually go back to that. I'll skip that and we'll go back to it because Dex has some pretty interesting stuff to say about that. And then China's air patrols with Russia sparked Japanese security concerns. So, by the way, thank you over on DLive. Yobi, thank you. Thank you, Pilgrim Prepper, for being here. Thank you, Jammer. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Dave Ninmo. Let's see here. Thank you, Deborah Witt. What is happening? Camping Way. Dr. Sean Berry. I said beep. Said don't beep at Marf. Dex, don't beep at Marf. It's in play. He's not beeping me. We have a light. You guys can actually see it in the background. The mirror shows it. It's actually pretty genius because we're states apart. We have a system so we try not to interrupt each other, where we can blink each other's lights, and it's all Wi-Fi. So if you have the ability, you can just blink a light. It's a very simple system, but it works. It's actually pretty genius. Mark Backencheck, Canada passed legislation to fast-track gene therapy to be approved for use. Canada's doing all sorts of really nutty things. Just saw Elon actually commented about Trudeau, said he should be replaced. Susie Como says, I suffer from neuromuscular degenerative disorder called CMT, Charcot-Marie Tooth. It does the same things this man is speaking of. Well, T, if you heard what Susie said, it might be something to look into. But I don't doubt that, I don't doubt he is lying too. I've personally seen it not in my mother-in-law, but her mother got it, and it was downhill from the second it happened. And it's pretty messed up. Now, there was a recent thing where she was on blood thinners, or they wanted to take her off. She has a pacemaker. Basically, if she got off of the blood thinners, then she could get a clot. If she's on the blood thinners, because of her fragile state, if she falls, she could get hurt. And she did fall and got hurt, and she could have, perished from bleeding out. It was very, very scary. All right. And then China completed a second phase of joint air patrols with Russia over the Western Pacific on Wednesday, following flights on the previous day over the Sea of Japan and East China Sea, sparking concerns in Japan over national security. Both South Korea and Japan had scrambled fighter jets on Tuesday when the Chinese and Russian joint patrols got underway as part of their military's annual cooperation plan. The flights are, quote, a serious concern for Japan's national security, and those concerns had been conveyed to China and Russia through diplomatic channels. Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno told a news conference in Tokyo on Wednesday. It says, quote, such repeated joint flights by the strategic bombers of the two countries in the vicinity of our country signify the expansion of the activities in the vicinity of our country and are clearly intended to act arbitrarily at our country. Matsuno, the government's top spokesperson, said. On Tuesday, South Korea scrambled fighter jets after 4 Russian and 4 Chinese military aircraft entered its defense zone in the south and the east of the Korean peninsula. Japan's military said that it had scrambled fighter jets after verifying that 2 Russian bombers had joined 2 Chinese bombers over the Sea of Japan and flown together as far as East China Sea on Tuesday. So there's been several events just recently. At the same time, we have one of the largest NATO German air, in fact, one of the largest exercises in NATO history. Right now, China and Russia are practicing together with their air forces, with not only jets, but bombers, and they're trying it all over the place. I think that China is going to try to take Japan, take Hawaii, take Guam, and take Taiwan. I think that that's going to be a part of the first set of this. And then Russia, these guys are teaming up. For people that think that Russia's only concerned about UKR and the NATO help that they're getting, I think this is going to be much bigger than that they're holding back all their good stuff for a massive world war. And that's not to be a pessimist. This is what I believe. Again, I think that one thing people need to understand is this is truly what I believe. If this is something that bothers you or triggers you, this may not be the channel for you. I mean, this is voluntary to watch. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm going to stick to my guns on that one. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that. Man, we've got some great callers lined up tonight and some good stuff coming. So guys, don't go anywhere. But yes, on this topic, definitely, in my opinion, it's so clear to see the rhetoric coming from the different sides. Like they're building, it's mounting significantly. And this is not just, about whether you're talking, Japan being upset with the incursions that are happening. You're talking about, Taiwan and Beijing putting out their statements about how, the U.S. is basically, has to get in line with their line of thinking or against Taiwan, or, there's not going to be any lines of communication. And they're basically showing us that. Like, it's clear as day what's happening right now with all of this.
And then we talked about Taiwan's question is biggest risk to bring under control, says Beijing's top envoy to U.S. Can you go over that real quick before you go back?
Yeah, certainly. So this is the top envoy, if you want to call it that. Beijing's top envoy was talking in Washington, and he said this Wednesday, but he basically saying that the biggest risk in preventing the relations, and this is going back, in my opinion, not just to our political relations and getting our, trade and everything else going in a good way. It's also getting to the point where we actually talk to one another on serious matters. Like, they were denying meetings, and they won't answer the phone calls from our military when there's, conversations that need to be had. All of that's sort of out the window right now. We're getting the silent treatment. So they're saying, the only way to do that is to stop, this nonsense that the U.S. is doing supporting Taiwan. In other words, you've got to get back in line with, the way China thinks about this. And if we don't do that, then they're not going to have any form of dialogue. So kind of, big words. Again, this is not, it's just talking points. It's just coming from, the ambassador, and they're talking points towards the U.S. So, you would kind of expect there to be some, but we wouldn't be in this position. These words wouldn't be coming out if we weren't in a position of consternation and potential conflict with this country, right? We are, this would be a much different conversation if, we were trading with one another, if we were making money and they were making money and everybody was happy, and, we weren't fighting over whether or not, they're going to take control of Taiwan and we're going to prevent that from happening. That's the problem in their eyes. And they either want us on their side or they're not going to play ball with us at all.
As far as, by the way, thank you for all of the prayers for Rachel there. Just looking back at the chat, everybody that popped in there and said that. So thank you. Let's see here. Conquest Josh popped in. I just wanted to point that out. Conquest Josh has been Foogle fan for a long time. He's got his own channel going, along with our wonderful mods. A lot of them have their own channels as well. But Conquest Josh has been around forever. So thank you, Conquest. It's nice to see you. And again, I hope that you're still creating. I'm sorry, I haven't gotten a chance to watch a lot of YouTube other than a few that I try to keep tabs on. Let's see here. Deborah Witt, DW David's Way, another old school Foogle fam. Josh Egan, another old school Foogle fam. We have so many folks here that I've seen for years now. Anita Torres, prayers up for Rachel. Thank you guys. And I think something is going on here. There we go. Wages, thank you for being here. You guys, if you didn't realize, Wages 2 also has a big YouTube channel and is purely here because he loves the community and he is a friend of mine. He's just a great dude. Make sure to go check out his channel. He puts a lot of work into that. He helps his friends. He's just a good guy overall. So make sure to go click on it. And he covers all of the solar events that are going on. He's a great person to have around just in general because he's always looking out for everybody. Cookielicious GE, always here for you, Adam. Thank you. Dex Mods, listen, miss lives, but always watch you. Cookielicious GE, thank you so much, and I appreciate that. Trinity says, you're so appreciated. Trinity, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Again, thank you, Trinity. Trinity is also a very, very sweet person. One of the sweetest here and has been through a lot and come through punching. Let's see here. Truth Irish says, I know YouTube is changing and how it pays or not. Yeah, more on the not side. So yeah, and then for what things that does pay, they take 30 to 50% of. Let's see here. Lady L, thank you. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Yoda. When is that? What movie is that from? Lady L, nice to see you. It's just nice to see everybody that's popping into chat right now. Thank you guys. Danish girl. Hey, Danish girl. Hello to you and much love also. Got lots of great people there. All right. And Russian missiles greet Zelensky's visit to flooded Kherson region. With its Soviet-era tower blocks besieged by oily waters from the blown-up Kakhovka Dam, the Ukrainian city of Kherson is like a vision of Venice gone badly wrong. The sound of shelling is never far away, and instead of gondolas ferrying tourists, flotillas on rescue boats cruise around rescuing those still stuck in their apartments. On Thursday, though, even a humanitarian mission aimed at mainly rescuing pensioners and stranded pets found itself directly in the firing line of the conflict. As rescue boats in the central Karabel district pulled up at a makeshift quayside at the half-submerged is that spelled that way? I guess I'll have to say
Extravaganza.
Beauty parlor, the sound of gently lapping water was suddenly replaced by the high-pitched whistle of incoming mortar fire. The green shirt boys. So by the way, it says, "Take cover," yelled a group of volunteer nationals, guardsmen, as the first of the half a dozen shells hit the area, sending up huge plumes of water and crashing into near tower blocks. It says the salvo of missiles at lunchtime was blamed on Russian forces in the Kremlin-controlled east side of the river Dnipro and may seem in response of a flying visit by President Vladimir Zelensky to watch the rescue missions in Karabel. So, again, when I point out this stuff, this is, let's see here. Yeah, this is the Telegraph. If you haven't noticed, the article is written in, like the author is actually by day does this, but at night, writes romance novels. I think we should all look for the objective truth. We know that there's propaganda through war. They're essentially saying that they're blaming all of this stuff. There are narratives on both sides, and you do have to understand that sometimes the narratives go against the side that whatever you support, whatever. I don't support Russia. I don't support UKR. I don't support either. And I see when there's a bunch of smelly BS getting thrown all over the place. They're painting narratives on both sides. These narratives are constantly changing because things screw things up and then they have to spin it. There's a lot of spinning. So one thing that events like this are good for is for escalation. And when things hit civilian areas or even areas where they're trying to rescue people, that's a really bad move on Russia's part if they truly did it. But I just ask that people, take everything with a grain of salt, everything, and not to say that Russia didn't, but I would say where this narrative heads is World War III, where they start, pointing out that they're hitting all these civilians. It gets everybody super angry because people should be if they're hitting civilians and even while they're rescuing civilians. I would just pay attention to that. If it triggers you to get angry at a country, then there's a good chance that it might be propaganda in either way to make you very angry and to support people perishing. Personally, I think we should never support people perishing unless they've personally done something horribly wrong and shouldn't be on this earth anymore. But yes, we're going to go to our next caller, and then we're going to talk about UKR of shelling Russian rescuers in dam flood zone, exactly what we were just talking about. Before we do that, in fact, we have Siggy on the phone. And Siggy, while you get processed through the system and get live, make sure to go check out Energy. Energy is a solar generator, and this thing is one of the best, if not the best, system on the market. This is, again, the Energy Flex 1500. It's expandable up to 96 batteries. And as well, this is stealthy. It's silent. No one can hear it from 3 blocks away like a gas-powered generator. It gets unlimited power as long as you have solar panels. Most of these packages actually come with them. Highly recommend getting solar panels, whether it be from them or from somebody else. As long as you have the adapters, if you already have some, I believe you can adapt them to this. So it's a really great system as far as the modularity of it. You can actually change the overall performance of it. You can add UPS, uninterrupted power supply, to it. You can, of course, add a supercharger, which triples the input. And you have a ton of accessories like low power, almost everything you can imagine that can plug into this and almost draws almost zero power. For example, like a stove that takes, a few watts and that can run forever. There's a ton of different things like lights that take like 9 watts and can light a field. There's all sorts of really cool things. If you like gadgets, this is good. If you like having power when the power's out, this is great. And if you like being the gray man, this is awesome. It is also expandable, so this is definitely something that you can either take with you with one battery, take it to work, power your drills, do something like that, or you can set up an entire home wall of batteries and power a mansion through a disaster. So this is a great, highly, highly, highly efficient machine, and it is extremely high quality, built like a tank. Go to marfuglenews.com/energy. They also have the new Flex 1500 Tactical, or it's actually the Flex Tactical. And this was actually designed not only by Energy, but by the Air Force Research Laboratory. So the Air Force and Energy teamed up to make this one. Has a heater for extreme colds. It has water and dust resistance. It has 1,500-pound latches. It's the tactical of tacticals. So check that one out. That one's on pre-order. Most people can get away with just the Flex 1500, but I would say this one is definitely for those who want the best of the best of the best. And then they also have the X2. Check that out as well. It's all built in one. It's not expandable, but you can dual link it. This is better for RVers or RVers, mobile home, van life. This is a great system because it has it all and it's all built in. Even has a built-in light that could light a field. So make sure to go check it out. marfuglenews.com/energy. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle on that one. You will save, and you'll be supporting us at the same time. All right, and then let's get our next caller on the phone. We have Siggy. Siggy, you are live on Marfoogle News.
Hey, Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What's going on, Siggy?
Not too much. How you been? I know it's been a minute since I called. I'll try to be shorter than last time. Thank you first to Dex again for being great on the phone, and also prayers for Rachel. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the integrated camera networks, and also the article there about private companies kind of getting in the game with that, with their actual vehicles that are driving around.
Yes, isn't that wild? They're giving out cameras so they can basically watch people.
Yeah, I think the biggest question, like from my end, is whether or not they have sort of like open access to all of the data and all of the recorded images and video. How long is their retention time? If it's cloud-based, and I'll kind of get into it real quick. Do they need a subpoena to actually get the footage? How do they know where the vehicles are if they saw something, or does it have to be reported? And then it's like, hey, they're one of the witnesses and they can look at it. So like Ring cameras and stuff, if somebody's doing something around your property, they can, subpoena or ask the user to go on their cloud storage system and obviously look for the information, which we're all familiar with. But normally the way it works in big cities and states, you have these, I've talked about them before in the last call, but like fusion centers, special operations centers, command centers, whatever, county, city, private companies, things like that will have those. Those can all be integrated into like law enforcement networks at every level. And even your Department of Transportation and stuff will have these cameras. A lot of times those are going to be live. A lot of times those are going to be hosted cloud-based servers. And a lot of times you'll be able to see them live. The image quality might not be as good. Where you get really good quality is when you have what's called like a Raspberry, and that's its own self-setup server actually on the camera. It's this little tiny addition to the camera, and you can add those 2 camera systems without having to buy the like really expensive ones that come with them.
You mean
But
like a
those networks are
Raspberry
super
Pi?
expensive.
Is that? Are you saying like a Raspberry Pi?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yep.
And so does that have a SIM card? How would these and by the way, if you don't remember Siggy's call last time, he has a special background. So he knows about facial recognition and things like that, and can't really say why he knows so much, but he gave us a really great call about it, and about not being so scared about it, but also being, obviously scared about the future of the things. So if they give these out, my thing 10 years ago, it would have had to have like a SIM card in it, and it would have to have some sort of T-Mobile account or, some phone account for it to actually send out. But do they have systems now where they could make a small device like this cheap and have it be able to connect to things for free, so they don't have to pay a monthly bill to have this thing constantly filming and saving somewhere? Who's going to pay for the bandwidth for this to save all of this footage? Or is this going straight into the police department?
Yeah, exactly.
They use it for how long and then they get rid of it?
This is what's kind of creepy is like you hear of a private company who's probably picking up the back end on a lot of the technology costs, but they're making a relationship with like your law enforcement. Not to be super scary about it, but that's kind of a precedent setter in my opinion. A lot of times these companies will have those cameras on buildings. So like any major downtown area across the country, there's going to be tens of thousands of cameras. They're going to be looking inside and outside in every major building, every street you walk on, and a lot of them will be owned by different companies. If you have one company or one guy who owns a bunch of the buildings and stuff, that'll all go into one integrated network. And they'll have surveillance professionals watching that. And that's on the private sector side. So like on the police side or on the county side, they'll have analysts and surveillance people watching them as well. And sometimes you can integrate the private sector cameras into the public sector watchers and cameras as well. So this is a relationship that's a little different because now you've got a mobile camera going around. My question would be, I don't think right now they're going to be able to view those live, just like you can't view a body cam live. You have to go back in and like remove the SIM card and then go on and go back to the time stamp, save it, put it on a document that can be used in court, like a disc or anything like that. And actually have like your team that deals with all that stuff, the AV team, go in and actually remove that stuff and take it out and be able to use it in court. So this is kind of a precedent setter because as the technology gets better, yeah, they'll be able to view it live. Like I'll give you a small example. There are third-party companies that sell systems to public sector and private sector and the federal sector. And all of those will have different networks on them and stuff. Like there's, LPR cameras, they're like license plate readers.
Yeah, they're very detailed cameras that can zoom in on them.
Right. Well, those are called PTZs. Those are the ones that have the different zoom and stuff, and you can pan them. It's pan, tilt, zoom. So you can pan them, you can tilt them up and down, and you can zoom. Those are really expensive too. You'll find those on like the highest corners and different. Like walk around your city and just look at all the cameras. It'll blow your mind. No, I don't care where you live. Like every intersection, any of that stuff. What I'm saying is those aren't just to like read, somebody running a red light or something like that. Like they'll have license plate readers. So when you have a warrant and you're driving around, there's cameras on certain vehicles like police cars and stuff, and then at certain intersections that'll actually scan all the plates that are going through. And if they hit on somebody that has a warrant to that plate, so they know that car's in ownership of subject that you're actually following, it'll give you an alert at one of these like command centers or to dispatch or whatever. They'll go to closest officer or whoever's watching. It can be any level. And because like even rich people have those on their homes, just to make sure cars aren't circling the property and stuff. You usually put like 3 or 4 of them around the property. And if you see one that's hit all the LPRs, or maybe you've saved an LPR, somebody that's been like harassing them, they'll be able to pick them out. But what I'm saying is there's LPR systems that are actually tied into tow truck networks. That's like one of the biggest ones because tow trucks are constantly running plates to see if they have the ability to pick up a car. And that integrates into police systems. It also integrates into private sector systems. So like companies and different things like that all have access to that. If they have the software, if they have the carrier that would provide that kind of thing.
I guess there's some positive things to that. I think that's how I had the same 93 Honda Accord. I had it stolen 3 times.
Yeah.
And all
Yep, exactly.
twice it was found by a tow truck that was there and I think they had to move it to get some other car. And then somehow they called it in or something.
Yeah. So like a commercial auto theft division in a police department, if it's big enough to have something like that, they'll put that plate on the system, and then whatever CAD system or whatever integrated network of systems that they put out for warrants and warnings and all that kind of stuff, it'll be on there. So if like the tow truck scans that plate, it might go back to the PD, and then the PD would know, oh, hey, there's a vehicle I was looking for.
Well, so here's why I think it could happen. Do you know the latest the little tiny cameras, GoPros, right? The New Zealand event, when that GoPro first came out, within days, that GoPro could hook up to YouTube by itself, and I think it was you had to have it connected to your phone or something, or it itself. I think what it was is that you had to connect to your phone, and then it used your phone's Wi-Fi or your phone's plan to essentially send the video out instantly out, but it was wireless, and you could just hook it up. You could go biking and film yourself, right? That GoPro is only that big.
Yep,
It's as big as a dash cam. In fact, some people use a GoPro for their dash cam. And I was just thinking the way that they could do this is if they're DoorDash, this is how I think this is going to work. Because they know that DoorDash people have their phones hooked up in their car as their navigation, because it works as their navigation. It tells them where their customer is, their everything. That this dash cam would have some sort of thing built proprietarily into DoorDash, and then they would have the DoorDash app connect to this free camera that they're getting from the state, and then that can wirelessly send the footage of live out to whatever it is that thing. So, like you said, this is something that wouldn't have really happened or been possible a few years ago. I think that that's how they would do it, and it would be live at all times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It'll get there. I don't know if the technology is quite good enough quite yet, because you've seen those live streams have issues and stuff when people try to pull off things, and they try to film it live and stream it somewhere. Like sometimes it'll shut down halfway through. It won't work totally correctly. And that as that technology gets better, that'll probably be the end game. Because my thing on it is, how do they know what car from the service is from this private company is involved? Like, are they watching the cars on a separate tracking system? Like, are the car, because police have those on their vehicles for CAD systems, and ambulances and all that are on those same things. You can track them on the map as they move around. It's a safety thing. It's good, but you didn't have that in the 90s and 80s and all that stuff. Not at every department. Now it's uniform. So it's one of those things where, like, are they tracking now DoorDash cars? On a network that, like, how would they know which DoorDash is involved? That's why I think you have to have you'd have to have some kind of premise and understanding of why you'd be pulling that info from the car. And also the cameras have different retention time stuff. Like, some are 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Some have a server where you can keep it for years, if not forever, depending on that's what the Raspberry Pi thing helps with. So it would be interesting to see where it goes. This is just such a precedent setter, because it's an open admission that this big company is going to have like a partnership where they're going to give basically open access. Like, everybody kind of agrees to that when they sign up for the social media platforms. They don't really realize they're doing it, but you're signing over everything you put on, all the major ones you can think of in your head. All that stuff can be retained and turned over. They're all very friendly if there's a real criminal case for going after the information. This is going to be like that for people just driving around, and it will be beneficial for public safety. And that's why departments all across the country at different city levels, and all counties and states and federal agencies, they all set up these like safe city, not necessarily safe city initiatives, but like these neighborhoods where, like, they'll help pay the cost for like gas stations and certain businesses and stuff to have camera networks hooked up to their place of business. And then it feeds directly into the police department's crime center or the state or, fusion center or whatever. And they'll monitor it for you. And, it's like, oh, I have a gas station. I can now buy 7 cameras or whatever to put around my station for extra help. And I have a direct line to the police if anything happens. And I'm part of this program now. So I have this heightened public safety cooperation. It's called public and private partnerships. And those, it's a big deal, in the last 20 years, is establishing those, refining those. So you can go
By
to
the way,
certain districts where even the gas station cameras.
We covered that, where they were even giving them huge stipends to put that system into their 7-Elevens and things like that. Do you see this in the future, where not only is it connected to facial recognition, all of that, but where you have a system like this that, okay, let me go back to a story I covered in Japan. A Japanese company made a system that could actually tell that somebody was going to shoplift before they shoplifted. It was 93% accurate, and it would tell on people's body language, their temperature, how they looked over their shoulder, everything else. So think about this. You own a 7-Eleven. You have this police system set up. The cops are there. By the time the guy even pulls out his weapon to rob the place, the cops are already there, because 10 minutes prior, when he was looking at the bubblegum aisle, that system said this person's either going to shoplift or rob the place. And it kicks in Minority Report style before they even notice he's there. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, that's like sentiment. Yeah, it's sentiment reading off of facial recognition. It's the same kind of sentiment reading they can do on social media posts and stuff like that. It's kind of AI keyword driven, and whatever facial expressions and eye movements and stuff you'd put into it driven. So I don't know if it'd be perfect. I think that would take a little bit, because you can integrate that two ways. You can have a third party facial recognition software that looks like an older video and connects the person, or you can have it doing live image recognition and stuff like that. Like they might have it NYPD for suspicious packages and things like that. So that's definitely the future. The sentiment thing is a big deal, because that's where you really get into the Minority Report concept, whether it's on written text or just what you're saying over the phone, or what you're doing with your face while you're moving around, or your actions. And if you catch the guise of the program, it can go, okay, nefarious actor, possibly. And like I said, when you're connected to those networks as a private business, like that 7-Eleven, we'll just use as an example, you can even contact them directly and say, hey, start watching, or start sending a unit. And you'll kind of skip the process of, I have to call 911. I have to talk to a dispatcher. I have to get relayed to somebody else. I have to get relayed. No, you have like a direct line of communication. So that's where it clears that up. So the response times are like not just faster, they're incredibly faster. But these systems are all as good as they make it. It's kind of the argument I always make about the drones and stuff overseas. It's just as good as the recognition software that's in the thing, and it's just as good as the human that has to go through all that footage, because you end up recording incredible amounts of footage that takes real time. Even if you speed it up 5 times speed and you're just looking for a specific thing, it takes a real person's eyes to go through and catch it most of the time these days. So how do you fill enough bodies to
with AI,
right?
That's where it's going. Is AI is
that's gonna help
look for specific things. Siggy, we're way over time, and I still have Josh right behind you.
Yep.
But did you want to?
Sure.
Did you want to summarize, and then thank you for your call today? By the way, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Summary is just remember you're always on camera, and that's just going to get better and better as time goes on here, and as the networks get better. So, if people aren't doing anything wrong or anything, it'll be helpful. But at the same time, when does that change politically, or when does it change when they're hunting for certain people or that kind of thing? Like that's going to be the big scary question mark on all of this as it gets better. When can a tool become a weapon?
Well, it's already getting to the scary point. Well, thank you again, Siggy.
Yep.
Can't wait to hear from you again, and I appreciate you. And thank you so much for your call.
Yes.
All right,
thanks, Adam.
Have a good night. Siggy has a pretty extensive background into the facial recognition and all of that stuff, and has some pretty good inside info on that. In fact, he actually makes me feel a little bit better about where it is now. It's not to this point of Minority Report, but we can see where it's headed. We know that it's going there. And you're always on camera, but I think people still get away because, like you said, a human reviews that and they might miss. They're looking at 30 hours of tape and they miss something happening on that 30 hours of tape, or if they're not watching it when it happens, then unless somebody says something, then they just keep going. Thank you, Ketamane XX. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you. Appreciate you. Carla Snow, again, thank you. Mystery School, thank you. I appreciate your support. Thank you for the super chat there. And then thank you over on D Live. Thank you guys. Skyhouse Beer Juice. I don't see Scooby, but wherever you are, Scooby, I hope you're doing okay. And let's see here. Matt D says, real informative, thanks. Mirror 504 says, love Siggy. Siggy is cool. Thank you, Siggy, says Quintrust. Thank you. And also, I'm very glad the positive comments about callers. I forgot to say, I always say it, doesn't matter. We still have one more caller, Josh, on the line. Just remember, we don't put down callers. We don't say next. We don't do any of that. Just remember, about every couple weeks, I tell you guys, like one time there was somebody with a very strong slur or slash speech impediment, and it turned out that they had a stroke. They ended up calling in, and a bunch of people said, this person's drunk, this person's an idiot, this person's this word. Afterward, that person ended up looking and going back to their own thing. People ended up, they watched their call, see if they did okay. And then they saw the chat replay and all of these people saying extremely nasty things. That person was very humble and very, very sweet. They called back in and they told people like, hey, I had a stroke and I'm paralyzed, and that's why I sound the way I do. There were so many emails after that of people saying, I'm so sorry, I was so nasty. It's just kind of that like fifth grade thing, like making fun of people. You don't know what people have lived through. You don't know the battle that somebody's going through right next to you. Somebody might be really nasty to you and you go, I'll never like that person. Some of my best friends are people I hated at first. And it's because once you break it down, when it gets past that human stuff, like what has that person gone through? Why are they acting the way they are? And it may be because they have just been burned or hurt so many times that they're acting like that. So after that, a lot of those people, I've never seen those same people that have emailed me. They've never said anything nasty about a caller ever again. Because I would imagine if I said, oh, this person's drunk, and then they call in and you hear that person explain why, they felt so horrible. So you never know. We used to get a lot more drinking calls, like actually people that were a little bit tossy. And that was when we did shows at like midnight and it was 2 a.m. Eastern, but still, just even if a person was drinking or something, be nice. Maybe they're drinking because they were, I know a couple people that had horrible childhoods and went through just absolute hell. I know a vet that literally saw all of his friends perish right in front of him and was the only person that survives. I know he drinks because he can't take the pills that they give him for PTSD because it makes him worse. So, I mean, my dad passed a long time ago, but he couldn't take the medication after a car crash. So he ended up drinking and pretty much was disowned by his family because of it. But everybody that knew him really well knew that like he couldn't take the medication. It was 10 times worse. Made him angry. It made him a horrible person. If he took that medication, and if he drank, he was perfectly fine. So there might be some reason for everything that is going on in life. And I appreciate all of you guys being positive and saying nice things about the callers. It's better that way. Even if you do have some disagreements, are you really going to be mad about it tomorrow? Think about it like that. Deborah Witt, thank you. Jen, thank you. Truth Iris says, don't judge, lest be judged. Exactly. And then, wow, sorry, Murph. Oh, yeah. That was when I was 11. I know most of you guys have had somebody pass that you're really close to. And then when you tell somebody that those pass, when somebody says sorry, and of course they mean it, but if you're in that spot after a few years, it's not a huge deal. My dad died when I was 11 and my mom died before I was 20. So when you lose both your parents young, it fades. The memories don't, but the harsh feelings and the sadness does. Let's see here. Kremlin accuses Ukraine of shelling Russian rescuers. Dex, do you want to go over to the other side of this? And this is kind of funny.
It is. It's not funny for the people that are in the path, but my gosh, like, one story comes out and it's Zelensky's out, looking at the flood and they're shelling him. Then the other side comes out and says, "Hey, our rescuers are out in the flood zone and UKR is shelling us." So yes, there's no rest for the weary here, in the sense that they're just going to put it out. And not only that, I guess if they're actually shelling, they're literally shelling on both sides. They're both just as guilty, and they're both just as victimless as they want to be. But apparently that's the story we're getting, is that the shelling continues right there in the midst. So, if you're not having to, tread water, you're not having to save your things from being flooded out, you're not having to dodge mines. They literally, mines are moving around because of the water now, that were once placed in the ground to protect an area, are now in areas that they shouldn't be anymore. If you're not dodging that in the midst of all this calamity from the dam being ruptured, you're now dodging shells, no matter which side you're on.
Well, we can assume, right? Everybody knows by this point, we can assume that if there's a story, just hypothetically, a missile hits, a school in UKR. UKR is going to say Russia did it. Russia is going to say UKR did it. Every story that has come out has been exactly like this for months. And it's gotten to the point where it doesn't matter what happens. Both sides are going to say the other did it. So as somebody who is, seeing this in media, what's crazy is that some people only look at one source and they'll only see the one side of it. And a lot of that is by choice. People will pick their news that they go with. People that only watch CNN or only watch Fox or only watch this. Or they don't ever look outside of their own country for news. There's a lot of news that gets corrected if you just look around the world. You look at a third party. Obviously, if you go to Russian news, you're going to find that they didn't do it. If you go to the U.S. news, you'll see that they did. But maybe India will have something that will be in the middle. That's why we scour news from all over the world every single day. People have made comments like, "Oh, it's basically an aggregator." We do the aggregating, so we do the work to find all of this. So make sure to go and use the website. It's great. Dex programs the website really easy, so you can find everything. Make sure to use it and use the search. You can find almost any story you think we've covered or haven't. Go there. You'll find a great reference for it. You can also find previous shows where we cover things. If you type in any keyword, you can find that over on our website. It's all archived. It's literally for your use. You can look up any old story and then find the exact shows we talked about, all of the shows. So utilize it. It's there for you. And it's also there for other YouTubers. If you're a small YouTuber just starting out, use it and get started. The more people talking about this stuff, the better. And then UKR's agriculture ministry describes coming damage due to dam and destruction. So they're talking about how this is actually going to damage all of the wonderful farming that goes on there. Many know that Ukraine is full of some of the best soil in the world, literally in the world. And this dam might have screwed up a lot of that. This dam. In addition to the man-made disaster will halt the water supply of 31 irrigation systems serving field in Dnipropetrovsk, Kherson, Zaporizhzhia Oblast, and the ministry noted. It says in 2021, these systems provided irrigation for 584,000 hectares of farmland, which from UKR harvested about 4 million tons of grain and oil seeds worth about 1.5 billion. Do you see where this is going? The exports of this grain, we're already having grain issues, supply chain issues, all of this. Prices are about to jump up. I can almost bet you. On top of, we're not getting the grain from Russia, or we're not getting it from here, we're not getting it from there. There's all these different things that are happening right now. This is all going to combine to end up, it's probably going to boost the inflation of different things. So this isn't great for the world. In fact, it says only 13 irrigation systems were operating on the right bank of the Dnipro River in 2023. According to the ministry, deliberate destruction of the Kakhovka Dam has left 94% of irrigation systems in Kherson without a water source, along with 74% in Zaporizhia and 30% in Dniprovitsk. The destruction of the Kakhovka Dam will lead to the fact that the fields in southern UKR next year might turn into deserts. Not only will farmers and water users suffer without the Kakhovka reservoir, but sources of drinking water for settlements have disappeared. The Agricultural Ministry noted that fisheries will also see the negative consequences of the destruction of Kakhovka Dam. In particular, mass deaths of fish, both young and adults, has already been recorded, exacerbated by the recent end of the spawning season, which will result in caviar drying up in shallow areas of the reservoir. Oh, darn it. That caviar.
I won't be able to have my caviar. That's really too bad.
And then the Netherlands and UKR ask Spain to provide Kiev with a Patriot air defense system. Dex, this is so the Netherlands are getting involved and they're asking Spain. What's the deal with that?
Well, I think they're looking for any Patriots they can get right now to put in these systems. They have a goal. We heard from the I think one of the heads in the Air
50?
Force at UKR said they wanted 50 of them, which he said, I think you may think it sounds crazy, but it's actually realistic, he said. And I'm personally thinking that sounds crazy myself, but except we only gave them 2. But it's interesting because we gave them 2, one from the US and one from another country. I can't remember which country donated, but anyway, there was 2 there. They've since claimed they've hit them a couple times. So I wonder if they don't even have them anymore, and that's why they're scrambling to get more because they keep getting hit. And they said they can repair them in the field, and I'm assuming, one battery is multiple launchers. It's probably the launchers that were hit, so they probably still function. Just they're down a launcher or 2, depending on how many were damaged in those hits that they did take. But that said, we know they're looking for more of these, especially if the stories are true that it was taken down the hypersonics. Then that's a significant, game changer, if you want to call it that, or at least, changing the narrative that was given from Russia saying that you can't stop in hypersonic. So it makes a lot of sense that they're going to want more of these, and they're seeing who's willing to give them. And we're going to probably hear much more about their requests for these from all of the other countries around there, in addition to the U.S., because I'm sure we have a few more we could probably pony up.
Common sense says, and many of my peers believe that the Patriot missiles were destroyed. The U.S. admitted, and UKR admitted, that one of the batteries got hit, but they said it was fixable. How do you hit a battery? And if you know what the batteries are, they're the trucks with the back ends that go up. The Patriot missile has 3 parts. It has the truck with the actual launcher. It has the radar, and it has the communication system, and all are mobile, right? And they said that Russia said that they destroyed at least 1 or 5 batteries, whatever else it is, because there can be multiple launchers for one system. The whole system together costs about $1 billion each. I think they're saying, oh, I believe we could get 50 of the batteries, and that's a realistic goal, right? Well, if it is true that Russia took out these things with hypersonic missiles, and maybe they don't even have any right now, or they have 1, or they don't have any, then it would make sense that they're asking other people, because it's too soon to ask the U.S. for 1. They go, oh, well, we have them. We already have 2, but we need more. And now they're asking other countries, and probably the U.S. is in the background saying, hey, can you guys pony up ones? They don't have any right now. We put them there, and within a week, they're gone. We can't give one this soon. We'll give you something. Watch. I bet you Spain will have some sort of deal in the next month where they get something sweet from Raytheon or Rand or Boeing, or one of them is going to get some sort of sweet deal or sweet hookup. And they always separate it by about a month, so then nobody really notices that there was a tit for tat there. Just my personal thoughts, not a fact there, but if you look now, they're asking for more Patriots from somebody else, and anybody goes, oh, well, they're trying to get 50. It makes sense that they're trying to get at least 1 or 2 from Spain. If they get the 1 or 2, then that will probably be the one that they have. Who knows? All right, we're going to go over to Josh. Josh has been waiting patiently. Josh, you can, I believe you got to press 4 or something. Make sure to get up into the system and let's talk. Josh, thank you for being patient. Meanwhile, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. If you don't have backup food, this is a really great thing to have because it's freeze-dried. It will last 25 plus years. Freeze-dried food is the best for longevity and taste after 25 years because it takes out all of the water molecules out of the food. When you go and add water back in, say 20 years from now, it will keep almost all of the flavor it originally had because it's just subtracting the moisture in the water. It also keeps it preserved. It's sealed in Mylar bags. And then in this case, you don't have to get a 3-month kit, but this is the best deal. You get $200 off on a 3-month kit. That brings it to $597, under $600 for a 3-month kit of food that can get you through literally 90 days. That's a month for 3 people, a month and a half for 2 people, or 3 months for 1 person. So if you do have kind of a set amount of time that you really want to have a backup, this would be good to have on top of your already stored food. So if you have a bunch of non-perishable food, what's great about this is very few actually last 25 years like this does. Freeze-dried is great to have. Again, if you can afford something like this, I'd highly recommend looking into dehydration. It's a lot of work, but it will be worth it in the end. You can look at systems and look at channels around us on marfooglenews.com/friends to teach you how to do it. This is for those of you that have the ability, and if you can, save up for the 3-month because it's the best in bulk. Just as if you go to Costco, it's much cheaper if you get in bulk, but they also have smaller packages. I actually have friends that call them up and they try to spend about $100 a month on whatever they can or whatever they can afford, and they just keep building that up. Over a year, I bet they've built up quite a bit buying smaller packages, like the 72-hour kit is 3 days worth of food. So go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. You'll not only get a discount, but you'll be helping our independent channel. I cannot stress enough, people don't realize how independent we are. Every issue that's happened over 5 years, we've had to deal with it literally on our own. So there's no multi-channel network calling them up and saying, hey, fix this for them. So thank you guys. We appreciate it a lot, more than you know. All right, and I think however many thank yous we've had, people have used these in regional disasters, quite a few floods in the Midwest that people have called us and said that these were awesome because they didn't have power. There were people in Texas during that freeze that called us up and thanked us because they had food on hand. They had a whole barn that was full of prep food, and essentially it got washed away. So they ended up having these in a different spot, and it saved their butts for 16 days or something like that. But yeah, so make sure to go check it out. And if these have helped you, if you've actually had to break these open earlier than SHTF, let us know. Email me at adam@marfooglenews.com or email dex@marfooglenews.com and let us know your story. All right, and then let's see here. Let's go to Josh. Josh, you are live on Marfoogle News.
Hey, how's it going, Adam? Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, nice to talk to you. So, what did you want to talk about tonight? You had something on. You recently saw something. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it was strange. I'm not one to talk about things I see since I worked for the military for 17 years. So I'm pretty closed-lipped about things. And I don't really believe too many things unless I experience them. But last week, me and my buddy of 30 years, we raised our kids together. We're up in the mountains north of Las Vegas. A place called Dead Horse Ridge. We were up there, and we've been going there since I think 1997 or 98. And have a little campsite and a campfire. We raised our kids going out there. You know, they'd be catching lizards and making little bows and arrows they throw around and rocks and whatnot. And it's just past the Wildlife Viewing Center, just northwest of Las Vegas, and it's on the edge of the testing facility for the Air Force.
It looks a lot like Yellowstone. It's beautiful, the pictures I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's quite different than Las Vegas, you know, with the desert. There's actually trees up there and snow on the top of the mountain peaks, and it's really cool. So me being born and raised in Vegas, I know where a lot of the cool spots are. So that's where we'd go, especially having kids. You know, you can't just camp out in the middle of the desert. You got to be somewhere with little coverage from the sun and whatever. But me and my buddy, we were up there, and we don't drink or do any drugs. Unfortunately, we're boring. And we're just sitting there listening to Frank Sinatra really low. And I had my tablet on a tripod, and he's facing me, which he's facing west. And I'm facing him, facing east. And we got our tailgates open to both our trucks. We both drove our personal trucks up there. And while we were sitting there, I saw like a flash of light, almost like a camera flash. You know, back in the day when you just have a camera, you just take a picture and it flashes. And I didn't think nothing of it. I thought, oh, that was weird. And then I saw it again. And then so I said to him, I was like, hey, did you see that flash? Like someone coming up the dirt road, because he's facing the road, which is facing Area 51. There's like a fence there. It says, you know, don't go over there, and you know, it's a restricted area. And the other side is Dead Horse Ridge. It's Nevada Department of Wildlife and BLM land. There's cabins. You can go up there and whatever. And he's like, no, I didn't see anything. And then a little bit of time goes by, and I see this flash indiscriminately, like I'd say every 12 to 15 minutes. And I was like, wow, it's really strange. So then around 11 o'clock that night, while I was talking to him, my tablet screen is facing me, and on the screen it's off, mind you, it's just off. It's just sitting there. And on the screen, I could see the reflection of something blue, green. It was weird. So I turned around real fast, and he jumped up, and the ground lit up. You could see the shadows on the trees, and even the bushes right there. It was so bright, like a shooting star almost, if you will. And it lasted for a couple seconds, and it was so intensely bright that, like, literally I could see the definition on the ground of the shadows move from the trees, because it was casting shadows from its light. It was above us, and it wasn't shooting across the sky at 1,000 miles per hour. It was kind of like floating, like a fast balloon, if you will. It was very weird. And I went and I grabbed my night vision. I have one of those Sightmark HD night vision scopes, and I grabbed it, and I'm looking like towards the restricted area now. Instead of east, I'm looking west, and my buddy's looking, and on the road coming up to where we are, I could see a couple people, which was really weird because no one was out there, and you can see cars for miles and miles where we're at. So we couldn't hear them, couldn't see them. And I seen a couple guys down there on the clearing of the dirt road. And so I started zooming in on them with my night vision, and I turned my infrared illuminator on, and I could see that it was two guys. And I hate to say it, but it was very weird. And so I told my buddy, I was like, man, I think the ranger or somebody's coming up here, which is weird. Why they didn't just drive up here? Why would they walk? And so he wanted to look through my night vision. I let him, and I went to my truck, and I grabbed some protection, if you will. I don't want to say what I grabbed, but I got some protection because it kind of made me nervous. It's dark, it's late, and nobody should be walking up a dirt road, especially with no flashlights or any type of light.
Unless it's some sort of cult thing, right? Either way, it's creepy.
Yeah, it was really creepy. That's what freaked me out, is like they didn't have any flashlights. And they're walking up a dirt road towards us in the middle of nowhere, literally 2 hours out on this dirt road up in the mountains, which is very unheard of. Like, I'm 50 years old. I've been going out there. I've never had that happen ever. And you're not allowed to ride dirt bikes out there because it's a wildlife area. So it was very strange. So I grabbed my protection, and he's looking through the scope, and he kind of starts freaking out and panicking and telling me to be quiet, not to even walk, because just walking on the gravel was making noisy. And he's not one to freak out. He really doesn't care about too much. So that drew my adrenaline up a little notch or two, you know? And I was like, well, what do you see? He's like, don't move, just be quiet. You know, one of those things. And I'm like, what's this? What's he doing? So
let me ask you this.
he's like,
Continue. Do you know that there were other sightings in Las Vegas, right? That one person said that they saw an 8 foot, 9 foot person and got video of it. What was the time frame?
yeah,
on
that's
this?
why within like 2 hours of when we seen it. So that's why I was calling you, because I wasn't going to ever tell anyone this. I could care less. I've seen thousands of lights in the sky and ricochets from bullets when I was in combat, things that are just weird, you know, even Apaches shooting machine guns at night. They look like laser beams. I've seen so many things. Navy SEALs swimming in the ocean back to back with their flashlights on, look like a round saucer. I mean, I've seen so many things that were all practical, you know, but they, at first glance, you would think, oh, it's a UFO, but it's just a Navy SEALs with lights back to back in the ocean. And so I never wanted to get too excited about stuff, but my buddy was definitely excited. And he's the one who called me yesterday, and he's like, bro, you're never going to believe this. Like, you got it. He sent me a link to the local news. And on the local news, they have our Metro Police with body cam. And it was the same exact colored light, this bluish greenish light that we saw. And then these guys got some crazy story that there were like these 8 or 9 foot tall naked creatures in their backyards, which sounds ridiculous. But I'm telling you, Adam, that's exactly what we saw on the dirt road. My friend is the one who actually was like, hey, bro, they don't have clothes on. And I was like, what? Like, I was thinking, what are they, like on drugs or something? You know, out in the middle of the mountains with no clothes on? I did not think for 1 second alien ever. Like, I never connected the meteor or whatever it was we saw with what was on the road, if that makes sense, you know? But when I saw them through the scope before I handed it to my buddy, and this is no joke, one of them, it seemed like, looked right at me through the scope. And when it did for that second, I was frozen. I was like, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Man, I'm not scared. Like, there's nothing to be scared out of here. There's nothing out here but lizards and you know, mountain sheep and wild horses. There's no, you know, bears or nothing crazy that'll get you. I'm not scared of anything in the dark. Trust me. But for one split second, when the one of them, like, it seemed like he looked right at me. And when he did, I was like frozen with only my thoughts. And that's when I handed him the scope and went to the back of my truck and grabbed my protection. And then he started panicking, which made me panic even more, because I'm usually the one out of the group that gets excited about stuff, you know, because we were in a rock band. We drive all over the West Coast playing shows, and I'd see stuff in the middle of the night, big birds flying at night. I'm like, what the hell's a bird doing out at night? Only owls come out at night, you know? And I'm like, what was that? But yeah, it was weird. And the news kind of connected what we saw and we're talking about for the rest of the night. I stayed up till the sun came up. That's how traumatizing it was. Like, I did not want to go to sleep. I stayed up all night. My adrenaline was pumping. And then when he sent me the link to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police, and then they show, if you watch on YouTube, they have the interview with the family, and they say, yeah, that they saw a greenish bluish light, that there were 2 naked creatures. They said they were aliens. You know, I didn't want to go that far. But it kind of made me second guess what I saw, and I just wanted to share it with you. You got a great show and a lot of good topics, and this isn't one that I really gravitate towards. I'm more on current events and the military stuff. But this really happened, so, you know, I just wanted to share it with you guys, and I'm not saying it was an alien. I'm not saying anything. I'm just telling you they look tall, really tall. You hear that aliens are really short. These guys look really tall. I couldn't tell you how tall, but they were slender and very tall and really scary looking through my night vision, enough for me to grab protection. And they were in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of the night with no lights.
But
Josh,
that's about that. I think that many people here can feel like when you describe this, one thing is it I don't know. To me, it sounds like you're reliving that moment. You can tell when, like, every part of it. So it's really freaky. The hairs on my arm went up when you said that you looked through and they were walking. The light coming out of the forest, I actually showed kind of a reference photo. We all think about that when I think about that when I'm in the forest, of something, dropping down between the trees, kind of something just landing right 50 feet away. You've seen this in so many kind of science fiction things. For it to happen in real life, that's pretty scary. Josh, we're out of time. But I did want to let you. We're going to be switching over to jams here in a couple seconds. But go ahead.
I was just going to tell you one other thing that was very strange, that when I looked at them through the night vision, when a cat's kind of like in the grass in your yard stalking a bird, it'll take a couple steps and then stop and its tail will move, and it'll take a couple steps and stop and its tail. That's how they moved. They moved like animated, like claymation, and then they stopped and froze. And then they took a couple more. It was so freaky. That's why I got freaked out. I was like, man, this is weird. So I just wanted to share that other detail because that was something I noticed. It was like almost like stop and go animation type thing.
Josh,
thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing again. Thank you, Josh. And update us if you find anything else out. And Josh, you have a wonderful night.
You too. All right. God bless you and the Marfoogle fam.
All right. Thank you, Josh. That was awesome. Bye-bye. If you have a call like Josh, don't leave us out. I did want to make sure that we did cover this because this is really important. I mentioned it earlier. J&J's taken by 19 million people is now being pulled by the FDA. So, like I said, there's things moving forward, moving backwards, moving all directions. This is definitely, I don't know, they of course say it's because they and what's crazy is they admit it's because of the stuff we talked about. And then this, we need to hit on tomorrow too, because we don't have time today, but the increased Russian GPS jamming hits the Baltics and Finland. This might be part of the narrative, or if it is true, they've been drilling for flights and Air Force training to work without GPS. Something is going on here. Something does not smell right. GPS signals across most of Estonia have been hit by interference in recent days, the country's transportation agency said in an email. They might be testing something. Mind you, 93% of the experts at Davos, cyber experts, say that it is likely we will have a catastrophic cyber event in the next 2 years. I think that would also apply to Europe and the EU and everywhere in the Baltic states. So if you are in the Baltic states, keep your head on a swivel and get yourself prepped. It would definitely be smart. Thank you for all of the PayPal donors. This week, we're thanking everybody over the last year since 2022. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody that supported us over on PayPal. Dex, let's go over the web only. I think we covered everything, and we got through all the callers, right?
Yes, we certainly did. So lots going on. Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link down below in the description. It will take you to this webpage with everything that we just talked about. And it also has all the caller information down below. And right in the middle is this yellow bar called Overflow. It's where the rest of the story is. Lots of updates on what's going on in UKR. It's all there. There was some new attacks with Israel in Palestine. If you want to see what's going on there, that's on here. We definitely have a few bits of updates with China and what's happening there. A major freight car incident in Arizona. If you're interested, that's updated. Of course, T-Man got charged, so another indictment's happening, and we've got all those updates as well, and lots more. There's a lot to go over there. It's an entire show's worth of content and more. So go take a look. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link down below in the description.
Cindy Lou Heineman, are we over on Jams yet? Thank you for the $20 super chat.
Any second now.
Thank you, Cindy Lou Heineman. And Trinity says she's connecting it. I feel that there's going to be a Trinity Red or Blue Pill Hi-Ho Kermit the Frog here video put together pretty soon. So make sure to go check out her channel. Sounds like she might clip that, which again, Trinity, I hope you do make a video. That call was great. I was thinking we got to clip that. That's incredible. I have not seen this, and I didn't know about it before the show. Now I have to go watch this video of the trooper body cam footage. Mystery School, thank you. It looks like Cindy Lou, I believe you're our top supporter tonight. Thank you so much for the support. And thank you for everybody that ended up joining as a member. Truth Seeker Forever, thank you for subscribing.